They had finished with broiled fish and baked eggs, and now Spartacus was devouring a chicken, breaking it apart and cleaning every bone thoroughly. At the same time, he dipped regularly into a wooden bowl of porridge and washed the food down with huge draughts from a beaker of wine. The chicken and porridge and wine smeared his mouth. Bits of food were already dirtying the clean tunic Crassus had given him, and his hands were greasy with chicken fat. Crassus watched him with interest. As with so many Romans of his class and generation, he had a particularized social contempt for the lanista, the man who schooled and trained gladiators, who bought them and sold them and hired them out for the arena. It was only in the past 20 years that the lanistae had become a power in Rome, a political and financial power, and frequently men of enormous wealth, such as this fat, gross man who sat at the table here with him. Only a generation ago, arena fighting was an intermittent and not too important feature of society. It had always been present. It was more popular with certain elements, less popular with others. Then, suddenly, it had become the rage of Rome. Everywhere arenas were built. The smallest town had its wooden arena for fights. The fighting of one pair turned into the fighting of 100 pairs, and a single set of games would go on for a month. And instead of reaching a point of satiation, the lust of the public grew seemingly without end. Cultured Roman matrons and street hoodlums took equal interest in the games. A whole new language of the games had arisen. Army veterans looked forward to nothing else but the public dole and the games, and 10,000 workless, homeless citizens lived for no other apparent reason than to watch the games. Suddenly, the market in gladiators was a seller's market, and the gladiatorial schools came into being. The school at Capua, which Lentulus Spartacus operated, was one of the largest and most prosperous. Just as the cattle from certain latifundia were desired in every marketplace, so were the gladiators of Capua esteemed and desired in every arena. And from a street man, a third-rate ward healer, Spartacus had become a rich man, and one of the most notable trainers of bustuarii in all Italy. Yet, thought Crassus as he watched him, he is still a street man, still a crafty, vulgar, scheming animal. See how he eats. It was always difficult for Crassus to comprehend how so very many poorly born and ill-mannered men had more money than many of his friends could ever hope to have. Certainly they were not less clever than this gross trainer. Take himself. He knew his own value as a military man. He had the Roman virtues of thoroughness and doggedness, and he did not look upon military tactics as something that came to one instinctively. He had studied every campaign recorded, and he had read all the best of the Greek historians. Nor did he make, as every previous general in this war had made, the mistake of underestimating Spartacus. Yet he sat here across the table from this gross man, and in some curious way he felt inferior. He shrugged and said to Spartacus, "You must understand that I have no feelings about Spartacus in relation to yourself, or the war either, for that matter. I am not a moralist. I had to talk to you because you can tell me what no other can." "And just what is that?" asked Spartacus. "The nature of my enemy."